Welcome to the Metal Institute of Thrashology. My name's Mike Lascotti. This is Simon White from the killer black metal band in London, Vosforis, and this amazing album, Cenotaph, right?
Yep, that's right.
I hope I pronounced everything right.
Yeah, it's a Cosmic Cenotaph.
Cosmic Cenotaph. I forgot the cosmic part. My bad.
That's right.
What a phenomenal album this is. I must have listened to it maybe, I don't know, a dozen times over the last week. And
Oh, thank you.
really good stuff. My only question was, I didn't find out until this morning that Adrian Erlinson was on the drums. So
Yep.
Curtis sent me the stuff over and said, "Oh, they're a black metal band. You got to check out. They're great." And I started listening to it, and I was like, "Man, they seem really on the borderline of melodic death." And
Yeah.
I think it was the drum work, maybe, because I don't. I think I must have argued with somebody about how At the Gates was my favorite album for the last 20 years. So I think I picked up on it right away. But what a great
Absolutely.
album, man. I'm so excited. I'm sure you are too. Tell me all about it.
Oh well, Adrian's drumming is unmistakable. It's absolutely got that sort of like sort of late 90s like Swedish death metal sound. It's just great. It was it was an absolute pleasure to work with him. Easiest guy in the world to work with musically. Very open-minded and just such a great listener. You can send him something and he'll listen and he'll like tune himself into it and he'll just send back something really cool and it'll change the dynamic of the music completely. So just consummate drummer.
The weirdest part for me was because like I did listen to these a lot, and of course I have some tracks that are my favorites over others, and I would listen to it, and maybe the first three times I would think to myself, "Oh, this is a black metal record," and then the next three times I listened to it, I'm like, "I don't know, this might be melodic death." And then the next time I listen to it, I'm like, it's back to black metal. But I don't give a shit what you call it. It kicks ass.
I think I definitely understand that, and the thing is when I set out to work on the music, even though I said I felt that it had the DNA of a black metal album, you're completely correct. There's like so many different sounds and things like that in there. I think that the production overall is sort of atypical for black metal. It's more of a kind of a death metal sound. And I think that comes through because Russ Russell, who did the production on the album, he did all the Napalm Death albums.
Okay.
So, so it certainly has got like a death metal sound to it. I think not intentionally. It just kind of I think it kind of just worked its way in. Also quite interesting was the way that I tuned the guitars. I didn't do it in E standard. I used B baritone, which is more the tuning that At the Gates or even Typo Negative would use typically. So I think just sonically everything sort of is sort of is tilted towards the lower registers, and I think that resonates more with the sort of like a death metal sound for people. I think.
And
Um,
is this your first album? Like, is this your debut?
with Vosforis, yes. I've done recordings with like other bands and EPs and things over the years, and way too many demos.
Sure,
So,
sure.
so I've got experience recording and doing those kinds of things, but I've never released anything by myself or anything of this sort of magnitude at this stage at least.
Well, speaking of magnitude, I mean, for a debut album, man, this thing rocks for a debut album. It's really phenomenal songwriting too. Like, it was so I got so confused in the debate in my head between death metal and black metal. I even went back and listened to Immolation and Dark Throne, and I started going through some black metal. Like, I hear that in there too, but
Hmm.
then you hear the At the Gates, the Carcass sound, the Swedish sound, and I thought to myself that this is such a well written record that it could appeal to black metal, death metal, thrash metal, progressive metal,
Yeah.
just really a host of different genres. And I hate classifying people's art, especially like an artist who's so passionate, or I don't want to like miscategorize something of their love or their work. but it's so so good.
Well, thank you. Listen, I mean that's very kind of you to say. I think I spent a lot of time thinking about the music and trying to put together something that I thought was interesting that other people would enjoy. At the same time as also trying to express whatever it is I thought I was trying to express at the time. And just a point about categorizations. Unfortunately, sometimes you just have to categorize the music. Going into this, I felt that I was presenting something that I thought was black metal meets sort of industrial. Um,
Yeah.
but to a lot of people, and they correctly pointed out, like, there isn't really that much industrial in the music, and I kind of get that because, like, for me, when I was thinking about the drum production and certain aspects of the drums, and then also the use of keyboards, if you listen really hard, you can actually hear Skinny Puppy in there, and that's
Okay.
kind of like where my ear was sitting, sort of Ministry, Skinny Puppy, Nine Inch Nails references and things like that. In my head they sounded prominent, but to other people they're like, "What are you talking about?" A buddy of mine said that he thought that like he heard like a lot of Celtic Frost in the music, but I wasn't really listening to a lot of Celtic Frost. I was listening to a lot of Satyricon, who
Yeah.
are influenced by Celtic Frost. So it's just really cool, like what people hear and how they pick up references and stuff like that. But I think that in terms of like communicating music, unfortunately, we do have to categorize it just to kind of get the right people in the door, so to speak.
Sure.
Which I don't mind doing that. It's not a problem. But I think maybe on the next album, I'm definitely going to sort of turn up the industrial elements a bit more.
Well, I wouldn't change too much, man. This thing kicks ass.
I
Um,
think.
Even I just wish the only thing I was wishing, like I'm really hard of hearing. I was a machine gunner in the military for a while. So the vocals, which I listen to thrash and death metal constantly. So vocals, but I started the more I listen, you pick up a sentence here, a sentence there. And like I was really intrigued, especially with Childhood's End. I like
Hmm.
that one, the lyrics of that a lot, and I really like the chained
Oh,
to
Chains of
Oblivion.
Existence.
Chain to a Resistance. That's it. And I listen. I'm from the '90s. Everything's track 1 to track 10. But I listened to those, and I really enjoyed those ones the most, just lyrically.
Oh,
It just seemed. I now read early this morning. I got it. I now read about how like you started. If you could have expand on it a little bit by starting at the small plane of a human and bringing the radiuses out. I'm sure,
mm.
however you're going to explain, it's going to be way better than me.
Well, when I this is uh, I'm gonna sort of go on a lot of tangents here, but uh, uh, black metal when I first started thinking about the album, I didn't want to sort of I have people have commented that they thought that it was a bit of a concept album, but then which I thought was interesting because I didn't set out to make a concept album because I would say that black metal tends to be highly conceptual anyway. And whether it's like trolls in a forest or like or Satanism or whatever, these are all sort of highly conceptual topics, and they're very abstract. Um, so when I was thinking about this, I was trying to find a way to, because I had like lots of different ideas that I was thinking about, whether I was thinking about like my own emotions, my own experience of the world, or if I was trying to think about the world around me, but then sort of outer space, alien life, maybe the occult, the spiritual aspect of life, things outside of that. And I just thought, well, like, what would be an interesting way to sort of encapsulate all of those things? And even though they're very dense and complex topics, I couldn't really talk about all of them in great detail. So I sort of had to sort of turn them into bumper sticker concepts, so to speak, and then just sort of like touch on different things that I thought were interesting. But when I was thinking about the album, I thought about Bosch's triptych, A Garden of Earthly Delights, and I
Yeah.
and I thought that that was quite interesting because it had all these like little stories and concepts, and it was a it's a highly dense and very intricate artwork. So I kind of I kind of thought about the universe in a similar way as like triptychs that like you start off with like a point on Earth with an individual, and then you look at how that person feels or experiences the world around them, and then as you increase the radius, you've got like a new triptych, which is we're at a different scale, looking at the planet and maybe outer space, and then radiating out like that. So it was just a way to maybe just say like I was thinking about a lot of things and it was
Yeah.
starting maybe there were 3 points. There was the human, there was our world, and maybe like neighboring planets, and then sort of like the outside, and then the sort of outer edges of the universe, and then where it decays into like chaos or whatever. So it was just trying to sort of just like touch on like little things along the way of like thinking about that journey, I think.
Hey, it's awesome. I tell you what, it made me think a lot. And there's a life-changing event happened about a year ago, and it's what started me into this whole music thing. I order light bulbs for work, you know. So this is what got me started, this life-changing event. And this event I started maybe a week ago. I interviewed another band from Portugal that Curtis had sent me, but I was already working with them before Curtis sent it to me. And we
Mhm.
started talking a lot about they were asking me questions about like the American political like circus. And then it had me thinking, I just watched a video, I'm going off on a tangent, about a telescope that America or Russia or somebody sent somewhere, and they can view like millions of miles, but they can now do 3D topographical. And it made me think about like what you just said, the position of the earth and us on the earth. And like I just started like visualizing all these concepts about a week ago, and then here comes your album shows up, and like before I found out what it was really about, I formed my own opinions, and then I heard it and I was like, oh shit, man, this is like perfect for right where I am in my life right now. And it really was, it made it much more easier for me to hit play because your lyrics were more thought provoking than they would be just your standard, hey, here's some trolls in a forest, a knight battles something and wins the princess. Like it's so much nicer to have something that's very philosophical or maybe introspective. And for me, at least, I'm sure somebody likes them trolls. But, so I really appreciate like the work and the effort that you put into your lyrics, because usually in metal, I don't listen to much of lyrics. I'm more of a guitar centered guy. And it was
Yeah.
great because your guitar work was phenomenal too. And the drums and everything else just really meshed up with my personality really well at the time I am in life. So I'm very thankful to you and Curtis for introducing me to you.
Oh, well, listen, dude, I'm just blushing. It's
Yeah, I know.
you're being so complimentary, and it's very kind. Thank you.
I always
Um,
do these interviews and then I get comments like people are like, "Oh man, you're kissing his ass." And I'm like, "I just fucking like music and I get excited. It's like a drug for me."
no,
Like
dude, I think you genuinely enjoy it. I don't think you're kissing ass or anything. I think you sound very passionate about music, and
yeah.
and it sounds like you listen to the music. It sounds like you spend time with it, and that's what I was hoping for the most from this album, is because the way I listen to music is I listen to albums, and I think like we both grew up in the '90s where if you bought a CD or something like that with your pocket money, that was something that you listened to for weeks, if not months, until you got another piece of music, or like you heard something at a friend's house, or you borrowed something. So the way we consume music is that like it's multiple listens. You want something that you can listen to multiple times, end to end, and it's a single entity. So that's how I wanted this album to be. It was an end to end listen. It was
Yeah.
something that you could listen to multiple times, and hopefully there were multiple layers in it that you could enjoy and come back to over multiple iterations. And that was also kind of like how. So Nine Inch Nails is my favorite band, and
I
particularly
just got into them again last week, but go ahead.
brilliant. And I love the Darwin Spiral, and I've been listening to it since I got into it in about like '97, I think. Even yeah,
Hold on
'97.
1 second. Hold that thought. I'm just going to go yell at my dog to shut up. I'll edit that out. Go ahead.
No, that's cool, man. Oh, cool. You got a Dead Kennedys t-shirt.
I grew up on
Yeah,
punk
yeah.
and hip hop, and then I got into metal maybe my late teenage years. But big
Yep.
English punk guy. I like the Exploited and that type of that type of punk. But go ahead about Nine Inch Nails. I
Oh yeah. So yeah, so Nine Inch Nails, the Downward Spiral, I got that when that I got it after it came out, so in around about like 97. So I've been listening to it for like nearly 30 years. I just
yeah.
love it. And and even like an album like Antichrist Superstar, it's just like you can listen to it so many times and it sounds fresh and it just sounds like exciting and it sounds novel and it's got all these layers and the thing with the Downward Spiral is I just keep sitting there listening to it going like, oh my God, the lyrics are so smart, they're so cool, they're so interesting, but also the sound design of the album, like all the layers, all the samples, and like the melodies and the harmonies and the rhythms of like the drums and everything, and it just like it just paints like a very specific like picture in my head emotionally. um and 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 I always and that's really what I'm trying to recreate when I make music, is I'm basically just trying to I'm just copying the Downward Spiral in my own sort of like in my own way. So that's kind of that's why it's so cool to me when I hear people like yourself saying like, "Oh, I dig listening to it. I've listened to it multiple times, and you enjoy it, and you get new enjoyment from listening to it." Because that's how I was thinking about it. I wanted to, and also working with Adrian and Russ and Annabelle and Richard Shaw. Like I wanted to, because if I did this by myself, it would have been a certain level. But by being able to get to work with these great professionals, I was able to come in at this level with like the songwriting and the production and the arrangements and all these things. Um, and I think that that's part of the listenability or the re-listenability is that
Yeah.
there's like it's got cool, the production's good because it's got like a good separation between the instruments and everything sits in the mix where you would expect it to sit. So it's predictable in the production in terms of like the mix, but it's also surprising in things that you hear as they come out and as you get used to the music, I think.
The first thing that really grabbed my attention is there's like a little simple riff, guitar riff in the opening track. Is it the Basilisk?
Yeah, yeah.
There's like a little riff just hidden in the mix, and it just pops out. It gives you this little. I had it stuck in my head all fucking day, and I was like, man, I love it. As soon as I got my car, I put it right on, and it was like you said, the playability. I think now Nine Inch Nails is interesting because that was the first band to introduce me to metal. That's where I made. They came out with I think it was called Broken was their
Mm,
EP,
mm.
and my neighbor, my best friend, when we were like, I had to be about like 13, 14, he bought Broken when you used to be able to order CDs. You get like a million CDs for a penny, and then you
Yeah.
never paid for them, and it ruined your mom's credit. It was awesome. And he bought that, and I remember it had that like little like techno drum intro, and then it went to just straight heavy, and that was like heaviness I never heard before.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I listened to Nine Inch Nails for a good like 15 years, and then I got away from them. And I don't remember what happened, but like 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm gonna listen to. Oh, I did a video for Generation Kill. They did a cover of this song Wish, which was my
Yeah, yeah.
favorite song. And so, anyways, I started going back through the catalog, and I just put on the Downward Spiral, and I think like not only does he hit all the points you made about like the strong lyrics and the just great music writing, but his vocals, you can feel the passion and the pain. You can feel just whatever emotion he's trying to, uh, spit out. That's what you feel, and I get a lot of that from this. So it kind of succeeded. Like I said, I think you like, and I don't know, it's just my guess, but I think you were going for some type of like provoking album, and it worked. Like that's all I do when I listen to it is just chill out and think, and it's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean that's this is why I love music is because that's I spend a lot of time listening to music and that's where I get to arrange my thoughts. Some people stand in the shower, some people drink a coffee or smoke a cigarette or whatever, but for me, I get to arrange my thoughts and just relax by listening to music. So yeah, I mean it all makes sense. You're sharing a part of what I experience when I'm thinking and experiencing music, and I think that's great, man. Like this
So
really it makes me so happy to hear that.
yeah, and I'm so happy to listen to it. So it's a great pairing. So
Yeah, thank you.
how did you end up with Adrian? Like, did you have any other drummers in mind, or you were like, oh, that's Adrian, I want to work with
Um,
him?
um, no, not really. I mean, I had, so I'm originally from South Africa, and
Okay.
I moved to London in around 2009. And London was great back then with with bars, like metal bars and pubs and alternative and things like that. Not a few of those places are still around, but when I got here, like I was just hanging out in bars all the time, and I got to meet like lots of musicians and lots of interesting people by doing that. But I found the picture on my phone, like or an old hard drive, like ages ago. Like Adrian and I had actually met in about 2010 or something like that at a bar, and I think like I bumped into him coming out of the toilets, and I was like, "Hey, you're Adrian Erlinson," and I think like we just chatted, and like I took a photo, and then that was it. Um, and then and then I completely forgot about that. And then I think it was like might have been about 6 years ago. Um, well, no, there was another guy that I met, Andy from Code, and it was just after the second Code album had come out, and Adrian had done drums on the album, and I asked Andy, I was like, "Oh, how did you get Adrian?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, I just sent him an email, or I called him, and just like he was able to do it, and he's open to doing session work." So I always kind of like kept that in the back of my head. And then about 6 years ago, I was working on a project with someone else, and we were thinking about a drummer, and I just flippantly said, "What about Adrian?" And we realized that we had mutual friends with Adrian through his wife and some other people that we knew. So there were mutual friends up the chain, and we were able to get the message there. And Adrian was like, "Cool, yeah," and he met up with us. And then we started work on that. But unfortunately, that project fell through. Then COVID happened. Then after COVID, um, well, during COVID, I got sober, and then I started working on this album after that. And then when I was putting the demos together, I was just thinking, yeah, maybe let me get hold of Adrian again. So I sent him a message, and I gave him a call or something. I can't remember. Just say, hey man, I got these demos. You want to check them out? I sent them to him. He really liked them, and then that was that. And then we just went from there.
I remember
In terms of
I went to see them in concert down in Washington, D.C., but my best friend at the time, he was late. I think he was late for his own birth. And we ended up showing up like we missed the first band, we always do. And then At the Gates was the first one. And I drove like 5 or 6 hours to go see At the Gates. They were playing with Arch Enemy and Amon Amarth, but all I wanted to see was At the Gates. Like, that's my pinnacle. And I remember we showed up late, so I was on the second floor balcony, and I couldn't. We were all the way behind the drum kit, so all I could see was Adrian drum for the whole set, and I was
mm,
just blown away by his double bass work, and
yeah,
man,
yeah,
is he just phenomenal. And so when I saw him on there, like after listening to your album, I was like, yeah, that's why I like it. You know, I mean, I like the guitar work and the vocals and
of course,
everything
yeah.
else, but yeah, I mean, it's just such a good album. So besides Nine Inch Nails, where did the black metal influence come from? Just Satyricon or
Well, I mean, I've since about I'd say like 97, I got into black metal. And mainly through the Cradle of Filth album Dusk and Her Embrace. That was like my introduction to black metal. I soon then discovered bands like Emperor, Dimmu Borgir,
yeah.
The Covenant, and I think there was Arcturus, and then there was some Ulva, Dodam's God, and then eventually Satyricon and Mayhem and Thorns came up. But just like I really liked Satyricon, I just really, 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 really liked that band. and I've met them a couple of times, and I've seen them loads of times. And I just really liked Rebel Extravaganza. Just sounded like such a forward-thinking, interesting album. It wasn't. It felt like it felt quite industrial to me. Um, and I was just like, oh, this is so great. Then Volcano came out, and it was amazing. It was just so heavy. It was so dark, and like the guitar tone was just like it just like I was like, that's it. That's the tone. That's what I want to sound like. So I spent several years tone chasing that, and that's one of the reasons why I got the Mesa Stiletto, because that was not this amp, but this was the same type of amp that Satir was using on Volcano and future Satyricon albums after that. Um, so so yeah, I mean, even though Satyricon has changed their sound a lot over the years, and I would say that I'm sort of like, I think like second wave. I got in on second wave black metal probably,
Yeah.
um, and that's kind of where my roots are. But I just really like the modern, forward-thinking sort of black metal, like Dot God and Satyricon. So that's kind of how I viewed the black metal elements of the album, I think.
That Dodheimsgard album from last year was mind blowing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just
I think that was in my top 10.
actually, I saw them. I've seen them twice this year. I saw them. There's a festival here in London called Cosmic Void. I saw them there, and
Okay.
then a few months ago I saw them in Bergen at the Beyond the Gates festival, and just such a great band. Always awesome to see them. So
Are
much
they
fun.
just as good live?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. They deliver. They absolutely deliver. Really super tight, and just great playing, and Bukotnik, I think is his name. Just great, just such a great presence on stage. Very entertaining, lots of humor, but also very sinister and mischievous.
Yeah, I don't think they've toured the States in a while, but I haven't. I live in Pittsburgh, and like all these bands like skip our city, and they'll play like New York or around us, and it's always like a 6 hour drive to go see somebody. But
Yeah,
I'll do it. Depends, who it is.
of course, yeah.
But I'd love to see them.
Did you ever see Typo Negative?
No, I was
Really?
too young, I think. Yeah, I mean Peter Steele. One of my favorite bands is Spirit Adrift. I don't know if you're familiar with them,
No,
and
no, no.
uh, they're a they're like a stoner doom. Their founder, he's like a multi instrumentalist. His name's Nate Garrett. He was in Gatecreeper, and I think Gatecreeper and Spirit Adrift was a side project, and they got so successful that he just started. He followed his side project, and I don't remember where I was going with this whole damn thing. Oh,
Okay.
but they did their last album they released last year was called 20 Centuries Gone. I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah,
And
please.
they do like half of their album is their stuff, and the other half of the album are covers. They do like Skinnerd, they do Hollow by Pantera, a Metallica, and they do what's the song by Typo? It's like every love myself, but they died.
Oh,
But
yeah, I know the one you're talking about. It's Everything Dies.
yeah, it's probably like track nine. I don't know
Yeah.
any, I don't know any names to songs, but it's just such a good album, and he does a really soulful cover of it. And every time I listen to it, because I listen to it a lot, and I'm always like, man, I really wish I could have just seen Peter Steele once.
Yeah, yeah, that's really sad. I mean, I would say I've been fortunate enough to see and meet all of my favorite bands except for Typo Negative.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that was I was yeah, because I got to London in 2009, and then I think Peter died in 2010. Um, so I felt that I mean before he died, when I was in London, I felt like oh, Typo Negative's going to go on tour soon, and they're definitely going to play London. So I always felt that if he didn't pass away, that I definitely would have seen them. I had I mean I've got at the time I had a mutual friend in New York who knew them. So I knew that I would have been able to find a way to meet them. I'm sure.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, Cradle of Filth, when Adrian was with Cradle, they toured with Typo Negative for quite a bit.
Oh,
Um, and and Adrian is quite good friends with Johnny.
I didn't know Adrian did time in Cradle of Filth. I didn't
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
have to-
I think it was it was after Nick Barker left after the Cruelty album, and I think Adrian was on From the Cradle to Enslave, that EP that came out in '99, I think. And then after that, I think 2001 was Midian. Adrian was on that album, and then there was another album after that that I think Adrian was on.
I gotta get more in tune with them, and I think Satyricon too, like the older
Yeah,
stuff with Satyricon.
yeah, yeah,
Especially
yeah.
like since you're such a big fan, and I'm like one of those guys. Like if I like your album, then I'll chase your influences to see where it come from. I just digest music as much as you can give me.
Yeah.
So I'm always chasing to see where thing like a family tree type thing.
I recently did a I wrote I don't think it's been published yet, but like I wrote like a list of like influences, and I think I did about like 12 tracks where I like wrote about each one. But I made a Spotify playlist with those 12 songs. I don't know when the article is going to be published, but I can send you the link, and you can do you use Spotify?
No, I do Apple, but
Oh, you
I'll
know
make
what?
my own playlist if you just give me the list.
Yeah, because I think if yeah, because I think you'll still be able to see it on the web.
Yeah.
So I'll just copy the. Should I just send it to? I'll just put it in the chat here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, so that's got like 12 tracks that sort of I felt kind of like represented like some of the influences that I had, not just on this album, but just sort of like in general growing up and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I fucked up the screen now, but that's okay. I I use Apple, and I know people always shit on me because of streaming, and they're like, "Hey, you shouldn't stream. You should support artists." But I do buy a lot of vinyl too. I just prefer the lossless and the sound quality of streaming.
Oh, dude, I love streaming. I think I was thinking about this the other day. Um, I think like for music fans, like with streaming, it's probably like the best time in human history ever for music.
Yes, yes.
You can listen to anything, anywhere, anytime, as much as you want. Anything you can think of, you can find. It's all searchable, like all your favorite bands there. I think it's amazing. It's
There's a guy I follow on Facebook or Instagram or something, and he writes for Decibel magazine, and he sent a thing yesterday about how he likes to listen to music. He posted it about meditation and specifically to like elements of black metal. And like how he puts headphones on and like shuts the lights out. It was a nice detailed description for people who don't know how to meditate. And I think I'm going to try it now that we just like I got the idea now to Vosforis, but I was doing it a lot to Agalock, and
mm.
I don't know if you listen to their stuff at all.
I'm familiar, but
Yeah,
I haven't heard them in a while.
but I think your stuff is introspective and is I don't know spacey or like it's just very introspective. So I think I'm going to try that later. I got a
Yeah.
whole list now of shit to listen to for like the next week.
So on the list, I think since we're talking about sort of like introspection, enjoying listening to music, I'm sure you've probably heard him, but Devin Townsend, the first album, Ocean Machine.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know it, but
I'm.
go and check it out. I think it was the first thing Devin released after Strapping Young Lad.
No, that's
Um,
all I can picture is strapping young lad in my ears.
Yeah, yeah. Check out Ocean Machine. It was the first album that I think it was 97 or something like that, but it was like 97, 98, something like that. But it was like the first sort of solo thing that he released under his name. But
Okay.
like that album is amazing. If you want like great, like just like enjoying sitting back, relaxing, just listening, enjoying music. That album, you can just listen to it end to end, and it's just lush. That's like the best way to describe it. But
Yeah.
it's like it's heavy, it's dark, it's introspective, but it's like it's just great songwriting, and
I got a lot of homework to do.
it's just an awesome. It's an awesome album. It's like one of my favorite, and I used to listen to it a lot in high school.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Still do. Actually, a few years ago, can't remember when it was, but I think it was like the 20th anniversary of the album, so possibly 2017, 2018. But Devon did a show here in London where he played Ocean Machine back to back, and it was amazing. It was
So he did
such
like Strapping Young Lad, then Ocean Machine, or
no. It's Devon Townsend Ocean Machine, so it's Devon Townsend.
okay,
So it's under his own name.
okay.
Yeah. It's if you check out the playlist, it's the last track on the
Okay,
playlist. You can just get the album that way.
for sure. Well, hey, I hate to cut it short. We're running out of time. But
Yeah, no,
I really want to thank you for taking the time out to hang out with me today, man. I really appreciate it. And of course, I love the album. I think you get that picture enough. But I really thank you for, just spending your time. I'm sure you're busy as hell.
no, not really.
Well, cool. If you're not, we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, man, dude, send me. I think you got my details from
Yeah,
Curtis.
yeah,
Yeah, dude, if you wanna chat some more, we can chat longer, dude. Please do. Like, I'd love to speak to you again. That'd be awesome.
yeah.
And again, thank you for thank you for sharing your time with me, and of course listening to the album and all the kind words. Which is it's just very kind. It makes me very happy. Thank you.